teleprompter has a couple of features that Ivy doesn't have. The first is that if you watch a TV studio and the cutaway shows the teleprompter hanging underneath the camera, then you're seeing a 24-inch monitor. And so at 20 feet, that monitor is a perfect size. But the ergonomics, since this was actually designed by an eye doctor, a world famous eye surgeon, the ergonomics of the one-to-one mean I'm sitting close enough, and all of the technology was designed to...
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Career Coaching Secrets podcast. I'm your host Rexhen, and today's guest is Ray Franklin, also known as Presentation Coach Ray, a veteran of the live event world turned expert communication coach, helping professionals elevate their virtual presence and presentation impact. With 4 decades of experience managing corporate events across 6 continents, Ray now blends production know-how with coaching to guide content experts, executives, and service providers in delivering powerful human-centered presentations, whether on stage or on Zoom. As a consultant of Ivy, a cutting-edge eye contact video platform, Ray's mission is simple: to bring clarity, connection, and confidence back to every conversation, meeting, or keynote in our increasingly digital world. And it's a pleasure for me to have him on the podcast today. Welcome to the show, Ray.
Rexhen, thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you for taking the time to come into our show, and it's a pleasure for us to have you on as well. I want to know how you got started with coaching. What inspired you to become a coach in this digital world that we have right now?
Well, I was actually started in radio as a teenage disc jockey in Miami and moved back to AM radio, which nobody remembers, and went to broadcast television in the news division at one of the networks. Then I left that business and started a live event business where corporate people would come to hotels and resorts, of which I had contracts with, to provide the sound, the lighting, all the staging. And in doing that, I developed a fairly exciting business, including being in-house AV for the beginning of Walt Disney World in Orlando, and some really exciting projects. But I sold that business and then started working as an independent coach. In doing that, I was hired wonderfully by the largest PR firm in the world at the time, called Hill & Knowlton. And so they hired me to coach their presenters to be more effective in product announcements, sales meetings, all kinds of events with all kinds of clients around the world. And so I developed a skill that turned into a pretty nice coaching career. And that's how I got into it.
So you're mostly working with presenters right now. Actually, on the intro, I did mention that is not just presenters. They also mentioned executives, service providers. So how do they fit into this?
Well, in a corporate event, you're going to have any number of people that are, say it's a national sales meeting or a global sales meeting. You're going to have a number of presenters there. It's usually a 2 or 3 day event, and there's a few hours of boring meetings or exciting meetings from one end to the other that involve a lot of technology, moving things, props. Used to include singers and dancers, lots of production value. And so somebody who is a good executive, not necessarily a good presenter, and probably has never had a class in public speaking. I don't know anybody that's ever been interviewed for a high-level job that said, by the way, are you a good public speaker? Nobody's ever been asked that because nobody's really taken a college course. Maybe it's been attached to some course, unless you're an attorney where you're trained that way. And so the people came to the convention totally unprepared in how to present effectively the message that they have to deliver. I found that if you're a content expert and you have a definite time and place you have to give your presentation, you're a lot more attentive to learning how to do it and be successful. And that happened to become a pattern that I've taken once I got out of the corporate world into coaching people. So if somebody's a content expert and they've got a specific date or time that they have to present to an audience, then I'm going to be more effective to them because my training is basically an 8-minute speech coach. I've everything that you need to know, the performance, the presentation, the rehearsals is something I can teach you in 8 minutes, but then I have to coach you through it so that you're successful from rehearsal offsite, from early meetings to the pre-rehearsal at the corporate headquarters to the on stage in a scary ballroom with 800 seats and no people and no lectern, nothing to lean on, but you have to stand up there and deliver. I take them through that whole process. Now, it's not just the corporate presenters, but it's also doctors, attorneys, people who have to do a presentation, whether it's to a boardroom or to the family dinner, whatever it is. If you're going to have to present to somebody, you need the skills to do it. And so that's been the tide. It's been so successful.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And so right now, you're doing that with people on Zoom, but you also do that locally with people that you have on your area, with clients?
Well, I have a global business because we've done work in all the best places in the world. These corporate events have huge budgets. And so we've been to some of the finest resorts and places around and unusual places around the world. But since COVID, most of it has turned into this. However, the training has also been this. I was hired by a global corporation to train 4 of their scientists who are not presenters, who have a particularly unique product that they're going to introduce to the Asian market. And these 4 engineers were going to show up in Hong Kong and they were going to have to give a speech to 3,000 people about the product. And when I got the phone call from the vice president of marketing, he said, it's an impossible task, but do what you can. Because these people had come up with the product and what have you, but they haven't been trained on how to present. So they were forced into a script. They were forced into graphics and what have you that weren't theirs. They were some attorney or some executive decided what should be said and how it should be said, but it wasn't their skill. It wasn't their words. And so I helped them migrate from that and yet still get legal approval so they could make an effective presentation. And a couple of the key points that I hammer home to people for their success is that if you can have this conversation when somebody at the dinner table says, tell me, Jane, what do you do for a living? And if you can go on for 20, 30, 40 minutes without PowerPoint slides, without props, without all of the accoutrement necessary in the corporate world, then you're ready to do it live in front of 3,000 or 10,000 people. Because the skill is really knowing your material, being yourself, and being able to present it in an organized fashion without the normal distractions that come with the technology, but with the things that are in your head. Like, should I talk to the whole audience? Well, no, you should talk to one person at a time. Real or imagined in the third row. Oftentimes in these corporate events, you can't see anybody past the third row because the lights are on. It's a stage. It's a platform with production value. And so if I'm talking like I'm talking to you, one person, there's thousands of people that could be listening to this live or for years to come in some archive. But I'm still just talking to one person. So once I get them understanding that they have the ability to talk to one person, that's how I get them to focus on a message to one person at a time as they talk through the audience. That reduces the tension drastically, immediately. Then in the transition now to the online, I have to focus on you. And that's where I got introduced to the company that I work for now.
That makes a lot of sense since it seems like such a natural connection between you and Ivy, since it just enhances so much the presentation because it gives you the opportunity to look the other person one-on-one in the eye. I can imagine that if there were 30 people in our call, you still would look at 30 of them in the eye. So that is such a powerful thing. And I wanted to ask you, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
The example that I give is the TV commentator. If I'm in a TV studio, I spend a lot of time in a TV studio. And you got a camera and it's a lens, just like we have a webcam, and you focus on the lens. But you're trained to do that And oftentimes your script is superimposed over the lens, which we can do with this device as well. So that's what's happening. But when you're sitting at home and 10 people are on the couch around the room, everybody thinks you're talking to them because you're looking at them. It's not something that you can accomplish if you're looking at a webcam because you're not looking at them. Whereas in this particular case, as we're talking, we're just having a conversation with two people, and you see what I see back on that screen. That covers the fundamental of a good online presentation. Now, the content's important, everything else is important, but the doctor that invented this is a world famous ophthalmologist who during COVID was recording lectures, and he was tired of looking at a webcam recording a lecture to students at the universities that he was coaching in, a professor in. And so he invented this device, very crude at first, but then he developed it as a one-piece thing that just plugs into your computer and all of a sudden gives you a TV studio on your desk. Now, this isn't a commercial for that, but this is how my skills at presenting help people transition because they're not used to this. The tools they've been given to get through this whole period since COVID, they're primitive tools. Not the case anymore.
And so with this one, this is a teleprompter. How does this differ from a regular teleprompter?
Well, the teleprompter has a couple of features that Ivy doesn't have. The first is that if you watch a TV studio and the cutaway shows the teleprompter hanging underneath the camera, then you're seeing a 24-inch monitor. And so at 20 feet, that monitor is a perfect size. But the ergonomics, since this was actually designed by an eye doctor, a world famous eye surgeon, the ergonomics of the one-to-one mean I'm sitting close enough, and all of the technology was designed to complement this. The Sony 4K camera and the lens that's involved is meant for this kind of focus, this kind of attention. If the screen was any bigger, I'd be doing this, looking back and forth and immediately losing the value of eye contact. So that's the first thing. The second thing is there's built-in microphones. And so you don't need external microphones. You can just sit there naturally talking to somebody. You see them and hear them. And down at the bottom is this amazing sound system. So it's all combined into one. It's not a $400 camera and a $300 monitor and a $400 sound system. It's one piece altogether, plugs into any laptop or PC and replaces basically the webcam and what have you that we all struggled with for so many years. The skill of presenting in this virtual world still begins with looking at the people eye to eye.
Thank you. Thank you for explaining that. I feel like a lot of coaches in our audience that are doing video material might find this very useful. It's not just for like having calls. You could also do video materials for your own content, and like you don't have to remember all the script. I believe you could also just read it there, right?
You can indeed. And even with this monitor, I try to tell people to put wide margins so that you're just reading down the center, and you can drag into the IV monitor. You can drag anything you want, whether you're on Teams or right now I'm projecting the display that comes to me through the platform you're giving me, and I'm just putting it up on the screen. It could be over here on a monitor, and I could be looking at my webcam talking to you. Hardly the same event you would hope to.
Totally agree. Totally agree. Thank you. Thank you for explaining this, Ray. I want to also ask you, as a coach right now, how do you go about finding your clients, or what marketing channel works best for you?
Like many of the people that you've had on here, LinkedIn is the principal part of my work. I've got over 21,000 followers in a diverse part of the world and also in lots of different disciplines. And so I can target in LinkedIn, I can target to attorneys. Big thing nowadays is digital depositions, where you can actually do a better deposition as an attorney because you're looking at the people and having a connection. You can also see nonverbal communication that you couldn't see otherwise when you're looking over here at the webcam. So I can divide it into concierge doctors who are being paid a fortune to be your immediate doctor when you need it. And so if they've got an IV on their desk wherever they are, they're now talking to you about your problem. And so I have that ability in LinkedIn, and it's turned out to be lots of fun for me. And I'm a premium LinkedIn member, and I really enjoy it. I also, though, record my pieces and I edit them, put them together that tell people about the opportunity of communicating face to face, telling them how they should. One of my favorite comments: this is not a phone call. You're on TV, so act like it. You should look like it. You should sound like it. I have the most simple background in the world. I just have a neutral wall that today I decided to put blue uplights on it. I could change that at a moment's notice, but it is not distracting. It's not a fake bookcase with, my book sitting in front of it, because I can give you my book if I need to. It just pops up there. It's pretty fun to do. So I think simple backgrounds, simple apparatus, if you will, helps you communicate better. And back to how did I get there? LinkedIn helps a great deal. People like to learn about things.
Right now, how do you see like looking into the future for your coaching business? If we just were to look at like 1 to 3 years into the future, is there something specific, some specific goal that you're working towards?
I have the advantage of having 40 years in this business. And so many of my goals are met. And I'm really more motivated lately by exciting people about being successful, as all the good coaches are. And so that's often comes one at a time. It doesn't come in hundreds. Now it comes in hundreds when a hospital system buys 100 IVs for their telemed doctors. That's pretty exciting. I don't get paid any more for it because my job then is to help them transition in this new medium. But I have an associate that I met who said his future son-in-law works in a bank and has been asked to stand up and give a defense of his type of branch for that organization. And he's nervous. He doesn't know how to do it. And with some remote coaching that included him standing up in front of a camera and talking to me like I was one of the important people around this boardroom table, when it was all over, he was told by 3 of the senior people, "How did you do that? You were talking to us." Well, he actually took charge of the room by talking to individuals, talking to people. It changes your tone. It changes everything about it. Now, all of a sudden, the future father-in-law is very happy with the potential success of this young man. And those are the kinds of things that I'm very fortunate to have as my long-term goal, is more of those.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that, Ray. And for my research, another question is, in terms of investments, as a coach, what have been some good investments that you've done throughout your years that you feel like, oh, that was actually a very good investment? And maybe there's also investments that you feel like, oh, that was a terrible investment. I probably should have avoided that. Do you have any of these that you'd like to share?
Well, since most of my investments in my early career were tied into owning an AV company, renting audiovisual equipment, I can tell you there were a number of mistakes that I made there, including investments in equipment. But as far as investments in my career, it's been mostly choices that I've made about clients that I've associated with, because I've been fortunate to not have to, through most of my career, I've been tied to a huge agency, or I've been tied to a company who said, you must sit and listen to this guy. You must. And so they brought it to me. The investment's been in outreach, articles that I've written, speeches that I've given. I haven't really had a financial commitment other than some of the business activities that I've had.
Thank you for sharing that. And right now in your coaching business, what would you say is a challenge that you're trying to solve for next? What is the bottleneck you find right now? Even though your goals have been met already, where do you find any challenges anymore?
The challenges are constant. They come daily. I welcome them. The challenges are from people who say, a webcam's fine. We've gotten along with a webcam for all this time. And why do we need to spend money to do this? Is there a value to it? And so that's the challenge that I have, whether it's this product or something that in the future. Right now, there's nothing that does what Ivy does. So my challenge is to get people to understand the value of engagement in this medium. It's still a big challenge. I watched a Zoom events corporate presentation yesterday, a webinar that for 40 minutes, the person who was leading the meeting, and I wrote it down, said that Zoom is a company that's engaged in audience engagement. Too many engagements. That's my buzzword. And they did it all by looking down at pictures of people that were in the meeting. Or they shrunk themselves into a little circle while they put useless graphics up that were meant for handouts. So there are plenty of challenges that I have in this world. The next challenge is we're getting into hybrid events where companies and churches and all kinds of people are deciding we're going to have half of our audience is probably going to be virtual. The other half is going to be in an audience in a live auditorium. And coaching people how to deal with those dual audiences is quite a challenge. Do you favor one or the other? Do you produce it more for the live audience or for the remote audience? Is the graphics the same? Those kind of things. Those are the challenges, is getting online communications to advance for the hybrid meetings.
Thank you. And when it comes to those challenges, I feel like for the people who say that the webcam is fine or is enough, we've been using it for years, it might just be that they are not the right target audience. It could be that they just don't really need to present potentially, because I can see the value in that device for anyone who's actually recording or presenting online, just like we're doing right now. Actually, if I had it, it would be fun for me because it would help me a lot. But for someone that is just like randomly doing calls and doesn't need to present, I feel like that would not probably apply to.
Well, take it, for example, first of all, take anybody that's on 4 hours or more a day. It's a tedious day. If you're just meeting new people and actually making eye contact, it's a pleasant day. It's just like somebody else coming into your office or you going into somebody's office and having a conversation. So it's helped a great deal. The customer service rep who's solving installation problems for remote technicians. This is a better way to communicate with that remote technician. Is there value in it? Somebody has to measure that. And my job is to help people understand there is value in bringing intimacy back to face-to-face communications. Not a tough job. It's a fun job to do. It took 2 minutes for you to figure it out when we did the little pre-meeting, when I showed you your picture in that ivy that's behind me.
Yeah, that was a little bit strange at the beginning. I was like, what is that in the back? And then you had two. And then you were doing like, you showed me your screen. You could do all sorts of things with your camera. That was so funny because oftentimes I have to stop recording in Riverside for people to even change their camera, but you were able to do all of that without me giving you much access.
Well, it's done with some preparation. And that's another part of the coaching I do. How do I help people put up the graphics that are useful? How do I help them do a better job of communicating using this technology? It does not get old. It is fun to do because I'm involved with people that are discovering every day. And my heavens, I can't believe that I can actually do that. So I want to tell people that it starts with this, a simple Ivy. And then you add a computer with a single USB-C cable. Then I explained to them, see, these are all things that are easy to do and make a better presentation. And that's the coaching that I do. So back to coaching, it's a fun part of my life, and it has been for a long time. People like success, whether you're an executive coach or whatever you're doing. We all get off on the successes that we have, and that drives us every day.
And I feel like these skill sets that you just mentioned, for any coach who's listening, I feel like they just make you look you look like an expert when you're able to do those things. It just like it's so impressive because everyone knows how to use Zoom, but not everyone knows how to do what you just did. And I feel like it just like would impress a lot of clients for coaches that are going to learn how to present that way in your coaching sessions. So yeah, thank you so much, Ray. I also wanted to ask you, and this is a question I ask to every coach. The final question is, what advice would you give to coaches like yourself, or even leadership, career, executive coaches who are trying to scale their impact?
It's all about connections. It's about being on important podcasts. It's about speaking in front of audiences of any kind, anywhere. It's providing value. And if you're providing value, then people will gravitate to you and they'll recommend you. That's the best advice that I can give. And if you're confident that you're giving value to people and you're genuine about it and you're consistent about it, it's going to draw people.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ray. And thank you for taking the time to come into our podcast. It was a pleasure having you on the show.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
For anyone who wants to connect with you or find you, they can go into LinkedIn and they'll be able to search Ray there, Ray Franklin. They'll be able to find you there. Is there any other way that people can connect with you?
That's the best way. I learned early on from a marketing person to own a hashtag. And so I own a hashtag called Presentation Coach Ray. And if you do a Google search of Presentation Coach Ray, you're going to remember that better than Ray Franklin LinkedIn, or you're going to remember that better than almost anything. So hashtag Presentation Coach Ray, it'll bring you to a dozen places where I can be found.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ray. It was a pleasure.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.